Hello, everyone. What a pleasure it is to see all of your faces. For those of you watching, I am Tina O, and I'm grateful to be connecting with all of you here from Naquelaquam, also known as Bowen Island, the ancestral home of the Squamish people. I'm grateful to be within their story and their story within mine. I'm part of the Braid, that is Powerhouse, which is a house of leaders for social impact. And I'm here with a handful of women who are on the leader path with us in the house. I want you to know that I admire you and I learn from all of you every day. These women are my mentors. They are my sisters. They are my co-conspirators for good. And of course, together we are co-creators of impact. I'm going to have them introduce themselves in just a moment, but before I do, today is unscripted and an emergent conversation, because that's how we roll. That's how we do things on the leader path, and it's how it happens in the house. This conversation is about leading from here. This current global transition, you might call it that, this shift in planetary and human systems, I don't know what you call it, but all that is that we are in. And Shar, I'm going to ask you to come in last, if that's okay, because I suspect the way you listen, you're going to you'll just do that thing that you do. And for all of us, all of you watching, I want you to know that we're all individual people in our homes and in our lives. You might hear kid sounds, you might hear dog sounds, you might hear door sounds. I don't know what you're going to hear, but it's just us having a conversation about the future of leadership. So who wants to jump in first and just tell us, where are you, who are you, and how would we meet you as a leader?
All right. So my name is Maya Olmsted, and I am privileged to be living right now in the Okanagan Nation lands. These are areas that have been protected since time immemorial. And I came here from Australia. And before that, I lived in 54 different countries. I am American born, but I have not lived in America since 2010. And I think that I lead from a place of nurturing. I consider myself to be a mama hen kind of a person. And I look around me for ways to be able to nurture and lift people up and to be able to coach them and help them grow. And I do that in a huge variety of ways. And in my younger years, if I were to say to a younger emerging leader, I never saw myself being that way. I think I always saw myself more being the cheerleader type. I think I always saw myself being on the sidelines, rooting for someone else. And now I think that I see myself on the sidelines still, but I see myself on the sidelines as a coach. And that's a really big transitional difference, I think. So just in the interest of time, because I know Shannon has to go soon, I'm going to popcorn it over to Shannon. I'm privileged to be here with all of you. I'm really excited for this conversation.
Hi, Maya. Yes, Quail, good day. My name is Shannon Waters. I am a Hulkameetnam woman who is honored to live on my home territory here in Cowichan on Vancouver Island. I am also honored, privileged, and challenged to work as a medical health officer within my home territory, which probably previous to 18 months ago, a lot of people wouldn't even know what a medical health officer was, but thanks to COVID-19, it's something that many people have become much more familiar with. I worked as a family physician for a number of years here in my home territory as well, and became really quite disenchanted seeing people mostly after they were already sick. And I wanted to do things to really help keep people and all beings healthy in the first place. So I guess meeting me as a leader, I've now, many years into my career, really been able to say, I'm a healer, and that I'm also a bridge walker. I I bring my perspectives. I'm mixed blood, Co-Salish on my mother's side and Swedish, Hungarian, and Scottish on my father's. I bring both Western and Indigenous perspectives to the way I view healing, and particularly with these somewhat tumultuous times we're in, especially just thinking, after this summer of extreme heat, of which I spent some of the time with women on this call here today, smoke, drought. It's really time for us to think about, especially when COVID's going on, how do we find ways to keep well, and that our connection to the environment around us is so critical to that. And that really we need to start thinking about our ecosystem as our health system. So yeah, those are a few words from myself, and maybe I'll pass it on to Carrie.
Thank you, Shannon. Yes, my name is Kari Klein, and I feel immensely grateful to be living and playing and now working in the land of the Coman people, the coastal Salish nations, which are Esquimalt and Sanghees Nation here on Victoria Island. I'm in Victoria. And there is something about being surrounded here with the water, the whales, the wildlife. There is something pretty magical here. And I will admit, I don't fully know yet why I've been called to here, but I am. Being amongst these women, which I've been amongst all of you in different parts of the braid for about 18 months now. And I feel that this was a place to land in leadership that was, soul-spirited leadership. I come with a healthcare background in chiropractic. It took me several years to discover the discipline that I would eventually call my practice, I suppose. But it really did morph over 17 years of being a deep listener to my patients and hearing how lived experiences were being diminished and were being denied. And I had a real struggle in seeing that people were not being heard. And so my listening has gone wider than practice now, more in towards supporting leaders, having had my own burnout experience, even being in holistic healthcare. So the systems are not set up for well-being. So they need recreation, and to recreate, we need to stand with people who are willing to look in a new direction. And so I just feel really privileged to be around leaders who are really reaching to create something newly. And I feel like I'm a bit of a touchstone or a remembrance for who we really are in our spirit, so that we don't get diminished in the outer noise and chaos. And so I feel like that's part of the piece that I bring, not necessarily in the chiropractic realm, but in the bigger voice of what we're looking to emerge here. So I feel incredibly grateful to be surrounded by all of you and with you. So that's a little about me. And Gail, let's hear from you.
Awesome. Thank you, Kari. And a little bit about me. I am a keeper and visitor of Treaty 6 land, 94 acres and a beautiful lake west of Stony Plain, once known as Dog Rump Creek. And in Alberta, so I'm landlocked, not like many of you, and feel very privileged to live in this part of the world. Not a lot of hazards or tornado, well, the odd tornado, but certainly live in a beautiful part of Canada. I am here as a leader. I'm calling myself a reforming C-suite executive, where I spent 30 plus years either managing companies or sitting pretty much in the top seats of organizations and very traditional sectors. So I feel very patriarchal type of environments. And my leadership style is one of visionary, futurist, disruptor, you could say innovator, incubator, and someone that doesn't like status quo and therefore is always looking at organizations, how can they change? And within the paradigm of the patriarchal systems that we've set up in organizations, that does not bode well. And today, when I look at what they're calling the mass resignation of leaders, I know that there's unhappiness. I myself, after 21 years in my last role, have decided to step away because I felt my energy and my creative spirit was being fed by entrepreneurs and people who were setting up their own businesses, like many of us on this call, and I wanted to do the same. So I will be setting up my own purpose, innovation, impact company in mid-November, and the other circles that you'll find me in, many women's circles, including this one, but also Institute of Corporate Directors. I sit on boards, and I really feel that to be a change maker, we have to look at board governance, and we have to look at C-suite CEOs and corporations, because it's truly, I believe, not government that is going to make the change. It is corporations, and that is where more trust is being placed today. I say that as we enter an election day on Monday. And I'm passing it to Shar, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, it's great to gather with you. I have lived my whole life creating ways to hang out with super cool, powerful, conscious women just like you. And on days like today, I think, yeah, it's been worth it. Where I sit in leadership right now is feeling really excited. I feel like we're at a tipping point. And what Kari said, you know, if we're looking to head in a new direction, we got to look in the direction we're going to be heading. And that's such a great reminder. I am most excited to share truths and principles and lessons learned that I feel I wish I would have wanted to know when I was 20, 25, 30. So I just started to bust into circles, and I've continued to do it for the last 20 years because I always just wanted to know. And I feel like being able to leave those breadcrumbs, take them or leave them, you know, create the path, use it or don't, walk around the path, jog down the path, hopscotch, don't use the path, but it's there, right? And it's a place where I just get excited about an intentional place and space where leaders can lift to shift society and know that there's hands at their back to go however fast or slow or sideways they want to go, but to be there to encourage them to just have the best experience they want to have out of their life. And really to have them understand that the whole point of this whole game of life and this whole gift of life is the experience of it, period. And that's where I'm at with leadership right now, you know, and just creating that space.
Yeah. Wicked. Thank you, Shar. And thank you, all of you. So, FYI watchers, just so you know, Shannon's got a jet in 9 minutes because she's on impact. She's off and doing, which is actually, I think, the segue or the bridge piece I want to move into. Because what I do, as you know, is I'm a story coach and a listener and a tracker. And it's all impact for me. And as I listen, I'm like, wow, we're all talking about listening here. Every single one of us is talking about where do we go from here? Well, listening apparently seems to be what we all have in common. We just listen in different ways, right? There's a whole bunch. I heard Shannon's connection to listening with the earth, you know, Kari's piece of deep listening, Maya's piece of coaching, Gail's piece of moving into that space. What I heard from you was the mass resignation of leaders, which means answering a call, right? Answering that. And then Shar's piece about just like the path is the thing, whether you use it or it's here, like listening for that. So I hear that in us in common. When I think about this group of us, around impact and leading, it's not just about awareness. And what I mean by that is I noticed that in lots of other women's circles, and not just men, not just women, but men too, but leadership conversations, there's a lot around awareness. And that's great. That's wicked. That's the listening. And then what's the listening for? And when I look at all 6 of us, like, you know, what's that saying? Moss don't grow under our feet, or something like that. Like, even finding a slice of 45 minutes where we can do this, it's not that it's difficult, but it's like we're busy prioritizing something. So what are you prioritizing right now? And what, like, this is like, I want to invite us into fire speak, like leading from here. Where's your priorities, or what's your invitation of priority? It doesn't have to talk about you. You can talk about us if you want. Where does that take you around impact?
So, I came to Canada from the Barrier Reef, right? So I've spent about 5,700 hours under the sea. And I tell people that a lot because that is a huge number. and that is my place, right? That is my place, is to be underwater. And part of it is because it is the moment in my life where it is impossible not to listen. You are immersed 360 degrees in your physical environment. You can feel it, you can hear it. If you open your mouth, you can taste it. But I came to Canada because I had an agenda of, as an environmentalist, I would have called myself at the time a recovering C-suite person. And I was changing my priorities. But when I think about what I'm doing now in my life, what I'm doing now in my life is trying to figure out, how do I change the messaging on the billboards? I just asked a really close friend of mine the questions that you sent me ahead of this meeting. And I said, what would you say? And she said, well, I tell people to breathe in deeply and stand up tall. And I thought, wow. And no matter what field you're talking about, that's really where we are. We're really saying this is really important. So breathe in deeply, bring up what you have inside of you, and then stand up for it. And I think that's what we're doing as environmentalists. I think that's what we're doing as women. I think that's what we're doing as impact leaders, is that we are reaching deep inside of us, and we are taking the deepest and most full breath that we can, so that we can stand as tall as we possibly can, and then send that message out into the world, deep from the diaphragm. And I think it's true. I think if we don't start talking about the connections between everything, between air, water, land, spirit, dreams, health.
Over to you, Dr. Shannon, on that one. Where does that want to go for you?
Well, I guess sometimes you don't know what you're going to say until you're in the circle, or isn't it usually you don't know what you're going to say? So I guess, Maya, with you mentioning water, I'll just, go into that and my connections about what you said. So, Tina, you said, what am I aware of? Or we were all talking about listening. What am I listening for? What am I tracking? And I think about my work now, not so much as working for an organization anymore, but working for that higher purpose. And like from here on out, no matter what I'm doing, if I'm focusing on that, it's all good. And so like I'm a medical health officer. I'm also working with Tina and others on writing as well. And really what I'm realizing is through this work, I'm tracking the waters. I'm listening and I'm feeling and noticing the waters. And, my mom married a man with Waters for a last name. That's why I carry that as my last name. And I'm also, a physician who's looking after the health of my home territory at the time when we're in extreme drought like we've never seen before. When when, we, are looking at, redefining our Drinking Water Protection Act legislation in this country, when, other women such as you, Mia, are really like, delving into, what is it, the connection to things like water look like. So I think, what I'm looking for or what I'm tracking is the signs that I'm on the right path. To think of Char's words as well, because like, especially, well, everywhere, but health right now is a bit crazy and it's overwhelming and it's exhausting. But, when I feel like I'm being fueled, like I'm in my sweet spot, is when I feel like I'm on the right path and I'm tracking, the signs and the synchronicities, and water is a big part of that. And what does it mean when in a time of drought, when that's when you're tracking, where does that fuel come from? So thanks.
Beautiful. I just want to add in here that for anyone watching, is that I don't know if you noticed this, but there's not a lot of answers being offered here, because what happens is in the space of listening, that's what leading looks like. It's like literally stepping out onto the next thing, like Shannon just said that you heard. There's a synchronicity there. I call it that rings in your body, that you're like, this is the right step for me. There's little thinking about it. It's a yes in your body and you go. It's really about how brave are you? Or not how brave are you? I don't mean to measure. Are you willing to step into that stretch of bravery onto the next yeses? So I know you got to scoot, Shannon. So just go and okay. Thank you. And thank you for all you do, especially in this time. All right, who wants to pick up on that? Who's got something?
Yeah, I would love to, Tina. I think this listening for the signs, what's bubbling up, Charlene says coming through, and really looking at those synchronicities and leaning into them. For me, the prioritization used to look a lot different than what it is today. So it starts with me, and then is my family, my husband, my daughter, and then is the impact and the societal collective good. However, it used to be company, family, me, like it was inverted. And I do believe that there is a sense of needing to step into ourselves so that we can show up for the collective good. And I'm tracking neuroscience. I'm tracking all things purpose, all things social purpose, all the purpose purveyors out there that are trying to help individuals and businesses. I being just one of them. I have them all either in my bookcase or on my podcasts, or I'm finding out what's happening, because together we are stronger. It's not one person's work, it's everyone's work. And we are all, like through Powerhouse and Leader Path, it's stepping into our purpose for greater good. But we have to shore up us, the me, in order to do that. So that's what I'm tracking. That's what I'm prioritizing.
Us. I don't want to miss that. The part, like how I even came into Powerhouse was Shar used to say, like, why are we working in silos? What is that? Why can't we just figure out that if you do that, you can do that, and I do this, and great, now I don't have to do that because you're doing it. Right. It's so inefficient, and it's so efficient to have an us and synergistically allow that to happen. So I want to name that too. What you got? What's next?
I'd say where Gail leaves off as far as what she's tracking, kind of almost in the outward, right? Where there's the social impact and how do we create an inversion, which is actually the actual version, but we got inverted, right? So Gail's bringing us back to, really truth, which again, Circle provides. But if I go even further upstream of that, what I've been tracking is I see where the access through mind and we get tripped. And this, the somatic part of having been a chiropractor with hands-on and regulating and supporting nervous systems, and then seeing just how dysregulated, right, we've become, but then seeing like, what was it that's informing this nervous system? And it was our mind. And I started to see, I have a huge love of neuroscience. And so when you collide spirituality with neuroscience, fantastic things happen. And so when you come upstream to the nature of us, which speaks to what Maya is talking about, that we have forgotten that we are emanating from nature. We are not separate from it. And so if we're not separate from it, the deep truth of what needs to occur actually comes through us, right? We're designed for intuition. We're designed to have something occur to us. We're designed to act towards compassion, and that is actually our nature. So how do we allow people to stay within that really warmth, effervescence of us while we go out and lead and almost change the game board in front of us? But you have to remember the nature of us, and we've skipped it sometimes, right? And we've missed it. And so then people are trying to effort it. And I don't want leaders to burn out. I want them to burn bright and continue to burn, right? We're using solar energy. We're going to use, right? We're going to use wind power. We're not going to use carbon fuels. We're not doing that anymore. So Gail, exactly what you're speaking to. And Maya, like, we are the environment we look to first to shift that, then to shift the outer. It's amazing.
I love what you just said, shifting the game board in front of us. You know, like I think we've spent a lot of time in the last couple of decades looking in and learning in. And now someone said bridge walker, right? Now it's like, how do we bring that in out, which is what this paradigm of leading, we talk in the house about decolonizing leadership, knowing that we're not going to I'm not decolonizing leadership, because if I said that, I would be colonizing. It's we, it all happens in the we as collectively. I want to go over to you, Shar, because so much of your mastery, can I use that word, really is about the outer. You astound me at how you connect inner to outer. What's alive? Can you hear puppies in the back? Isn't that great? Over to you, Shar. What do you want to add here? Or take us somewhere else?
Well, I think what resonates, and I think it's come through the whole conversation, but I want to pick up on the nature of us for a minute. Because some of the words that have been really big for me lately are renewal, regeneration. And I think sometimes we forget the healing properties of the people and the spirits that we are. You know, our cells can regenerate in 6, I don't know, don't quote me on this, 6 weeks, I believe. 6 days, 6 weeks. Our ability to regenerate and to heal is absolutely astounding. And so if I go back a piece, you know, the piece that comes with that is, if we can see ourselves as that, because I have worked with people that see themselves in one way, and that's the experience of their life. And then miraculously, after some weights and sweating and cardio in a former life of a transformation, I've worked with people that see themselves another way, and that is their experience of life. And now I'm at a place where if we could pull in to the most important thing, how we lead forward and the decisions we make forward, pulling those two pieces together, remembering our incredible ability to heal right now, and remembering that we have to see our incredible ability to heal. It has to be front and center for us to have the experience of healing, the experience of healing, the experience of healing. I am healing. We are healing. The planet is healing. We are regenerating. We are renewing, reimagining. We're not talking about climate change anymore. We're talking about climate renewal. We're talking about climate like regeneration, right? And if we took every quote unquote problem and issue of the current election cycle, how might we look at it differently through the lens of our ability to heal? What might that look like? And that's really what's front and center for me right now is we have an incredible ability to heal if we prioritize it, if we believe it, and then we act on it in partnership. That's it.
Something I said in a previous talk during Gather for Her, I think was, where we said moving the woo to wow. And what I heard in your piece there is, I was thinking about the election that's coming, and I just imagined what they would be saying and on the mic if renewal and healing that was part of the thought process. How would it change? How would it change what we said and what they said and what we'd be voting for? That gives me lots to think about. Even for me as a leader, do I do that? Do I lead with healing first? Do I don't know. I certainly lead with possibility. Don't know that I lead with healing. I'm going to sit with that one. Where does that take anybody here?
Well, I have a distinction around healing because that's what I've been in because I was going to medicine and then took a turn. Whether you believe healing or not, it's occurring. So it's another thing. Again, it's that upstream thing, right? So
hold on, I just need to say that out. Can you say that out loud again?
Yeah, that was very powerful. I'm glad you asked her to repeat that.
Yeah, whether you believe healing is happening or not, it just is. It's a truth. It's a deep. It's occurring. It's nature. Nature is a constant healing, regenerative, right? Consciousness. Oh, here we go. Friends are going to start to play in the midst of my talk. So here we go. Anyway, so this is life. But how do you bridge those two, right? Like, how do you? Most people are in their belief and thoughts, and it's like, well, what if it's just true? And look in that direction. That's
okay. I'm going to jump on that because we have a thing coming out on the Leader Path Day, which is Tuesday, that says, "What is the cost of truth?" What's the cost of truth? And that if we believed what you said, whether believed it or not, if we held the truth of that healing is happening anyway, what happens? Okay, so we're going to wrap this up in a few minutes. So I want to take this into the leading place, because this whole conversation is about, there's another way to lead. We are building it as we go. The Leader Path is about co-creating this way to lead. And so in this emergent conversation, what I've heard, that the clues that we're being asked to play with is listening, healing. Those are the two. That's all I got right now. The listening and the healing. Yeah, Gail, go for it.
Lead with love, not fear. In most organizations, the leadership is fear-based, not love-based. That is the switch for me. If we lead with love, it shifts everything. It shifts, demands to relationships. It shifts connections, from hierarchy. Like, there's so much within organizations that's fear, fear, fear. And to me, it's love. We need to lead with love.
Yeah, I really want to jump on that and build on that, because I just learned very recently the difference between your competitive advantage in a market and your differential advantage. And this has been a thing that's been running around in my brain, but Gail's just really described what the difference is right there. Your competitive advantage is this driving need to feel that you're in front of. You can do it faster, you can do it cheaper, you can do more of it more quickly. It's always comparing yourself to others. And you think that your differential is about differentiating yourself in a competitive way, but it's not. It's about recognizing your uniqueness, your differential, and honoring that within the flow of everything else. And so going back again to what Gail said earlier about honoring the I, the gift of who I am, and then bringing that. And I want to go back to this idea of the leader path, because again, with the conversation around water, for me, the leader path is not about a physical path that you're walking along. For me, the leader path is the river. It is this river of leadership that is flowing, and there will be moments when it is dry seasonally. There will be moments where we have the high level mark because we've got that higher amount of water. But when I sit on the side as a matriarch in my grove of matriarchs, which is how trees along a riverbank grow, they grow in these groves. The root system of that matriarchal grove provides the embankment so that the river can be a distinct river of leadership. And it draws from the leadership, but it's bringing the nutrition into the water in order to allow it to be rich, and now in order to allow it to be oxygenated, in order to allow the minerals to enter the water, which then flow again back into the plants. And it's just, I think about the leader path in that way, that it is part of this rich, you can dip into it, you can swim in it, you can be on the side, but we all need that flow.
Hallelujah, sister. Wow.
So yeah, I think everyone defines leadership for themselves, and they create that metaphor and that story that is resonant for them in their lives. But we all believe it's there. It is a thing. It is a space energetically that may take a different form for different people, and there may be abundance, and there may be a season of drought, a season of regeneration, right? But it's always there.
So much. There's so much here then, and I want to leave us on that image because I think there's so many ways for us to self-identify in that picture about where we are or what we have, what we've noticed. Can we feel roots? I don't know. Am I in a grove? Can I feel the river? Like all the different pieces that connect. And Char's got something she really wants to jump in with first. Go ahead.
Well, but I don't have to do it before we're done recording.
Well, I think it's 3:46 and we had a hard stop at 3:45, so you're
okay.
good.
Can I share my screen for a second?
Of course.
Okay, so I just have to show you this because it is, okay, just a sec. Let me try again.
I also think what you just said, Maya, explains when we talk about the young leaders who maybe don't even know they're leaders yet, this matriarchal place of, even us being somewhat of the embankment of providing, of guidance, so if you have, right, and we're in flow together, what a difference that is to be a leader, a regenerative leader, an innovative leader. I think that was really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that.
So over to you, Shar.
I just have to show you this because you're right. The leader path is absolutely a waterway. You'll notice it on the bottom right. The story stones that lead us into transformative change are the Gather for Her episodes. And then the fireball in the middle, that is like where the magic happens, is First Steps and the FireCircle and what we do with our media work. But you're absolutely right. The convergence of leaders forward is in a canoe, on a leader path, in water.
Mm.
Oh,
Just had to show you that.
I love it.
I do love
I love
it.
it. You just can't make this stuff up,
No,
right?
you really can't make this stuff up, can you?
Nope.
So I want to close us with a question that came from you, Gail. We opened on how would I meet you as a leader, right? And so there's implied in that is how do you lead, or what do you lead, or who are you as you lead, right? Who, what, when, where, why, and how of the lead. And what if we change that word to love? What if I asked you, listener, as a leader, what if I asked you, not how do you lead, but how do you love? And you allowed that to be how you lead. Because part of being on the path is being in practice of leading like that, as well, being in community with those who are also in practice of leading like that, and being in vulnerability and expansion with others who will hold you hands at your back as you lead like that, because you're really loving like that. So I want to ask all of our listeners today, how are you loving? And for all of you, thank you so much for loving the way you lead and leading the way you love, and for being here and contributing today. I really meant it when I said you are mentors to me, you are sisters to me, and co-creators. And I know all of us in the house are so grateful for the energy that you bring to the space all the time. So thank you. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See you on the path.